I want to first talk about the game, though. I'm just going to yap for a little bit, and if you guys have some input, I'd love to hear your thoughts. I think the topic of discussion, at least for Japan this week, has been where do we go from this point? Knowing that the ban list is implemented, or it goes into effect September 1, Monday. People have been thinking, okay, like, what do I play after the new ban list drops? And you could definitely see that happening at locals, at least when I went, where people are just like, even though the ban list is not implemented, there's two sets of people. There's either people who are like giving their deck like one last ride, or the people who are like vehemently testing to see what they can do, where to go next. And a lot of people are still really undecided. But I think there's been a couple of things that have emerged, a couple of thoughts that have emerged, and I think that I agree with these as well. I think I had some of these thoughts myself, even as far back as Gal last week. It feels like if you're trying to sweat in the Digimon card game for Season 2 right now, from the get-go, you play one of two decks, and you probably know what these are. Yeah, I would say personally, the two decks you really have to worry about are Gallantmon and Omnimon. Abaddamon. Hold on, we'll get there. Gallantmon, Omnimon, I think are the two decks you really have to worry about. Gallantmon specifically, you guys ever seen Yugioh Part 5 where the guys are just like at a restaurant or a cafe and they're like drinking wine or like talking at a table, and some dude that I don't think is a bad guy, but they think is a bad guy, walks up to them and they mistake him as the bad guy and they just stomp his ass out? That's the Gallantmon card right now. There's like the Gallantmon family is really strong and they will beat your ass. They're strong, they're fast, great OTK power, and their level 6s are so flexible that it's hard to put them in a situation where they don't have some sort of answer, right? You've got Medieval Gallantmon, you've got Promo Gallantmon who can recover as a blocker, deletes things, and can attack as soon as he comes out. You've got the BT13 Gallantmon who just blows up things except within a very small range that is basically level 5. You've got Growl X, who hits 10Ks or lower, gives themselves protection and buffs himself for a turn, and gives Sec +1. The X antibody, of course, is unaffected by effects and can become what I think to be like the strongest Digimon in the game consistently. I know there are other Digimon that can get bigger than that, but consistently he can become like the biggest Digimon on board without problem. And it's not like you have to do like a bunch of mental math to get there. It's like my own effect, and maybe like one source effect. That's it. So with all of these guys combined, there's really not a ton you can do to put them on the back foot. Like any problem you can present them with, they typically have a solution. And because of that, the deck with just like the Gallant X cards, like the red focus, because it's also mono red, it's easy to search through, and they can OTK you, and then they can clean up board with like an Omni X for game. It's not that difficult. Also, the Infect Invincibility, I think I mentioned it before, but from X Antibody is just so backbreaking for a lot of decks. It's like, hey man, you got to give me my turn back if you want to kill me. And if you don't, then whatever. I'm going to kill you next turn. The second is Omnimon. I think Omnimon is like the one deck right now that has like the perfect amount of offense and defense. It does take a few pieces to find, and the cool thing about the deck is that there's lots of ways to build it right now. CS focus, you can actually omit a lot of the CS cards and just go back to the old Tie Mat focus. I saw that this week at locals. You can also just combine the two. And then for Omni cards, you just have so many choices. You've got the Ace, which is incredible board removal. You've got the CS version, which actually isn't that bad. I think it's probably like the weakest of the bunch, but I think as far as what it does to be a bully, giving your Digimon decode and popping out 2 level 3s who can just pull back one of the level 6s and then search for another level 6 if necessary is really strong. So the removal there is kind of difficult for him. Shout outs to American Joggers, by the way. Red, white, and blue, not blue, white, red. Nokia makes it so that you can have an Omni every single turn. It's really easy to build. Alter S makes counterplay almost impossible with his effect invincibility, and he's being such a big Digimon on board. You have to get something over 16k, not 15, over 16, because if Nokia is down, he becomes a 16k on board. So it is what it is. Miraculous Mega Knight is straight up poker. If they play that on the board, it's something you have to put into the calculus. And they can also use that card really like flexibly in that, okay, instead of just going into an Omnimon this turn, if I can't keep turn, what I'll do is I'll utilize my Miraculous Mega Knight on board, and I'll just build 2 level 6s. And you can either roll the dice and attack, and maybe you get aced, or you can try to remove one of them, and you get MMK'd. So you actually just like play poker. It's like, am I bluffing or not? And so if they're not bluffing, then like, what do you do? So yeah, tons of removal, OTK power with Alter B, effective invincibility from Alter S. There's just so much. Omni definitely should have lost Miraculous. I'm playing Omni right now, so I'm biased. So honestly, going back around, back around to my original topic here, I think those are the two decks you need to have on your radar for a deck that you want to use if you're trying to be like place and go to Worlds. If you're not trying to do that, play whatever you want. I'll be the first one to like I played Machine Drammon this week with like DM Slop, and I had a great time. And I was thinking like, okay, if I'm not going to use one of those two decks though, like what are my other options? What decks should I consider in the early days? What decks have I think people have? What decks have I seen people consider within this first week? And I went through and talked to a couple folks, and I also did a little bit of testing on my end, and I came together with a decent list. I'm not saying that every one of these decks is a deck that you can use to fight against Omnimon and Gallantmon. I'm just saying that I've done some work to figure out like if I should use these or not. So the first one is Galaxy Toolbox. I think that people saw the new cards they got in BT22 and like, oh, this is sick, because now they finally have protection, right? The BT22 cards give them protection from deletion in their inheritance effects, which seems like a great little like new tool, especially when the deck had like so much going for it beforehand. I think this protection helps against Gallant. Omnimon can get around it as they have like bounce effects instead, like bounce the hand, or also stun. But the thing is, I feel like you need like 2 to 3 waves of that protection, which is really tough. Like, if you think about it, Omnimon has like 2 to 3 waves of removal, right? The first one is the level 6. When they evolve into either their War Greymon or Metal Garurumon, they can either bounce or delete. After that, they evolve into Omnimon, and that Omnimon typically has some effect, right? Like, it's either delete the highest cost or whatever, or it's like, I forget what Nokia's CS Omnimon does. Is he bounce and then on attack he removes? So like in that case, you've got 3 waves. But either way, you're doing both, right? Alongside that, Gallant, I think, has more difficult time removing, but he can just swing over you. So he can swing over you, try to destroy you. He can't. Burn to security, unsuspend, swing over you again. So you've got to have more than one set of protection in order to survive against both those decks. And while I thought that the deck was like really good, or like on paper it seemed really good, with the new protection, keep in mind that protection is only if you are in archetype. So if you try to go outside the archetype with the Hexablaumons or Mirage Galgamons, you lose that protection. So you're just playing with like the Galaxy deck that you had before. And while the Sayo and co-restriction I think was warranted, it does hurt in archetype cards like Grace Nova, because the only way you can play him now is just by hard dropping an Apollomon Ace. And even though you get your level 7 out, you're putting an ace in play, which is like debt that your opponent can cash out on. And you don't want that to happen. BT22 Diana is a nutty card that the deck needed. Yeah, I think Iceclad and Blocker was sick. Also, like being able to Source Strip is really strong. I think as the game goes on with it, I think especially within the last set, Source Stripping seems really good. There are some cards where I'm like, okay, if I can just get rid of your source cards, I'm set. You just become like, you basically lose all your teeth. Kaguyamon's one of those cards, I think, where if you just like Source Strip the shit out of her, she's just there. So yeah, Galaxy, while I really had high hopes for them, I think that their removal being in archetype really hurt them, and them losing Sayo and Co obviously did hurt if you're going to end up playing the in archetype version of the deck, the East Pure version of the deck as we call it. Grace Nova is really hard to remove, not gonna lie. Yeah, you have to do a lot, right? But keep in mind, 2 to 3 sources of removal or waves of removal. Can he survive that? I wonder. BT24 will hopefully give us a new Grace. Yeah, let's hope. It feels kind of sad that they got these new tools and then they took away one of like the actual decks like tools that they had for a long time. Hunters are good now. Ooh, we'll get there. But I don't want to harp too much on the Galaxy folks. But yeah, I had high hopes at the start of this week, and now I don't have such high hopes for Galaxy, unfortunately. If you find something though, feel free to let me know though. I'm trying to figure out a way to kill Omnimon and Gallantmon myself. But next up, Kaguyamon. Puppets, I think, seems like it has a lot of potential with Kaguyamon and the Kokeshimon and the... I always forget the level 5. God, what is the level 5 called? Karakurumon, I think it is? Karakuru? I think it's Karakuru. Like, those cards seem really good, and with Kaguya's special form of, like, I trade a puppet, you die sort of thing, whenever you try to take out one of her puppets... Seems really strong, but she does leave herself open to 2 or 3 weaknesses. The first being Source Strip, which I mentioned before. The other one is Digivolve, and then the last one, I believe, is DP-. But I didn't realize until, I think, last weekend, that there's a black Namekemon who's a puppet type who prevents those 2 of those things. He says, hey, if you've got 3 or more security, you cannot Digivolve or DP- one of your Digimon for the turn. And if she just plays him down, the turn that she comes out, she's really sticky. She's really sticky. And that gives you the time to build up your like puppet army. The hard part, I think, that Kaguyamon finds when playing is that you need to build up enough tokens to survive. So remember how I said like 2 to 3 waves of removal? That also applies here. Especially against Digimon with effect invincibility, the Kaguyamon effect seems seems more lackluster than before, right? You can like trade up if they delete if they try to delete your Kaguyamon and then you delete a token to delete them and they're effect immune. Well, who cares? You just lost a Digimon and they didn't lose anything. So you'll need enough tokens to survive. Seems like most of the matches I think will just come down to speed. At least at my locals this week, that's kind of how it was. Where if you set up really fast, you just swarm and win, and they're kind of just like left holding the pieces. But if you take some time to get set up and they take some time to get set up, I haven't done enough testing myself to know what the actual like speed of the deck is. So if anybody has like any firsthand experience or like you've seen decks or seen a lot of like play from Kaguyamon, let me know in the comments. I'm happy to listen. Not even might. It is better, Debora. I had that same thought this weekend. I was like, dang, like why would I play, or last weekend, why would I play Diaboro when Kaguyamon kind of just does it? Although Diaboromon does have his own perks, which Kaguyamon doesn't really have access to. One of those being Amagemon. Amagemon is a demon, especially right now. He just shuts off Omnimon. And if Omnimon doesn't have the promo adventure War Greymon, they just die. Like, well, okay, pretty much none of my effects work. I have to get through the bajillion tokens to actually affect the Amagemon, and that's hard. So I guess I won't. The issue is that if you do super fast, you usually have nothing in trash. Ah, that's a good point. You need things in trash to pull out, right? I've been playing puppets for like 4 weeks, and yeah, that's basically it. So it's either swarm or be swarmed. Now Boots is also just incredible as a cleanup instant removal tool. Yeah, him being able to just like minus 4k for everything you have out is just like, goodbye, anything. That sword really does do some work. So yeah, Kaguyamon is one I'm interested in knowing like how fast the deck is on average, because I think that's what's gonna affect how well the deck does right now. Time to play Kokuwomon again. Well, we tried. Next up is Machine Dramon. I don't think this was really on anyone's radar, but because it's the only deck that I've really been playing this past week, I decided to put it on the list. I think Machine Dramon has some good removal protection. Again, he just burns 2 sources if it's a cyborg or face down, and he just doesn't leave the board, which is cool. And his assembly his assembly I thought was really good. I thought it was like a better version of the old Machine Dramon. But what I'm learning now is that maybe it's the same. I feel like it's worse, the assembly, because you only need 4 Digimon, whereas the previous Machine Dramon can set up 5. The 4 Digimon for assembly, I guess, plus his own play effect gives him 5, so maybe it's not that different. Maybe I'm just complaining to complain. But there's a couple different ways to build Machine Dramon. He's got the DM builds, which I've been using, which I will admit is a bit on the slower side. But I think the deck is a lot more flexible. Like there was a game where turn 1, my opponent gave me 3 memory, so I just straight up hard dropped to level 5 by discarding a cyborg card and playing on the board, wiping out whatever level 3 he had, and gave him 2 to pass the turn over. And the next turn I had a Machine Dramon. So that's cool, but I'm trading it for speed. I kind of feel that. So if you're trying to like really sweat with Machine Dramon, I'm going to assume that black and purple are a little bit faster. I haven't tried purple so much, but I have tried a little bit of black and it just felt faster. Most of the time, you'll be able to get up a Machine Dramon in your matches, I feel. The issue is that then you have to win. Like, I fall into this trap so many times where I'm like, I got to get my guy out. I got to get my guy out. I got to get my guy out. And then I do, and I'm like, now what? So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with Machine Dramon. Like I have to win quickly, and I think that what I've seen some people do these past couple of weeks is that they have been just like really honing in on just Sec +1 and trash security cards for his inheritances, and using that they just like 2-hit OTK or TTK, TTK, yeah. So that's I think something that's worth investigating, but it still feels maybe a little slow. And also when you lose those sources, you lose your ability to win quickly. So there's that balance. And this probably might be just a me thing, but let me know if you play machines and you feel this way. Like, a big issue is actually not being the biggest Digimon on board. Surviving is great, but if you can't bully with your big, dumb machine on board, I think it's a lot harder to win. Because they can either just straight up ignore him, or they can just run into him and then you just have to like soak up the hits. And if you don't have like a way to like rebuild very quickly, then one machine every turn or two machines every turn is just not great. Like I'm thinking of like the Chaos X antibody, where you can like slot in at start of turn and then you get the effect of all of your machine Dramon, so you can use this effect on attack to get another one. So 1 to 2 sources plus per turn is good. So yeah, machine Dramon, while I would like for him to be amazing because that's the deck I've been most interested in recently, I need him to get bigger and to hit faster. Or hit harder, rather, not faster. Well, actually both. Harder and faster. It's a Daft Punk song at this point. DM build hurts the fight so much. So many games I've lost hitting into machine insecurity that they evolve into with the egg. Yeah, the egg is really good. The version 5 Pagumon, who says, hey, you can trade one of your source cards and inherit one of your face down source cards in inheritance on attack, and you can just evolve from trash. That's cool. Because people will like, did you evolve me one of them? Like, I just want you to know, I'm coming back though. Oblivimon plus Megadramon plus Sec Attack equals win. Oblivimon is the level 5 that says you can't redirect attacks. And then Megadramon says that you can delete a Digimon of the lowest level? He deletes the lowest something. And then you can unsuspend. And then Sec Plus is just Sec Plus, like the DM Metal Greymon. My buddy is using Chimera to warp into EX1 Machine Dramon thanks to the Growl engine. Damn. Jesus, that sounds like a Chimera hellscape of a deck. Good on your friend though. I respect it. Yeah, with DM Metal Gray and Megadramon, it's easy to do 4 sec. Yeah, that's true. You just got to get those two right. And the deck wants to stack different names, so if you do focus in on just the DM cards, you have a chance of like drawing or like hitting 2 DM cards with the same name, and that just kind of hurts. Although if you're going to evolve into them, I guess it doesn't matter. I'm trying to not run Jet Sylphie and Daipin for more utility, but I'm starting to feel the pain of only being a 12k. I forget, yeah, Daipin's good because he's plus 2k. Oh, you mean the BT, I think like 18 or 19 Jet Sylphie that also gives you plus 2k on both turns, right? It's both turns, I think? So many Omnis and security. 15k, 15k, 16k, 12k, yeah. I know that pain. 2 level 4s plus 1 for every face down. Yeah, that's the Megadramon's on play evolve effect, which is actually not that bad. He can wipe up and like clean up the weenies on board, which is useful. And if you can get like 2 or 3 source cards, then you actually become a little bit more threatening by hitting level 4s, level 5s. I thought that I forget what the guy's name is. It's like the pill-shaped little black Digimon who he gives you the inability to be de-digivolved and also plus 1,000 for each of your face down sources. It's the new DM card introduced in BT22. He seemed interesting. I haven't messed with him though. People posting up Datamon. That's it. Datamon. Thank you. Combo for black purple is to put the Megadramon on bottom, do 3 checks, unsuspend, remove the Megadramon, use the when attacking to return it, swing the last 2 checks, unsuspend win. Oh, that's cute. I think I'll steal that. Thank you. Is that your tech? That's my tech now. Purple Hybrid. I think if there was a deck that was like the most interesting to me on this list, it's Purple Hybrid. If you think about it, both decks, those being Gallantmon and Omnimon, don't really have a way to interact with Tamers. And so you can pretty reasonably just set up Tamers on the board without much of an issue. Omnimon has a couple of options, one of those being like the BT15 Metal Garurumon, who could just like stop things from suspending for a turn, and that's actually really annoying. So he can like freeze up 3 Tamers, but as long as he doesn't really come down, I think you're okay. There's also the fact that both of those decks, again, Gallantmon and Omnimon, have lots of colors. And because of that, Mill immediately becomes a viable option to win the game. X Antibody, while you might not be able to kill him, lets you, by himself, mill 3 cards. On top of that, the Gallantmon cards, like the Medieval Gallantmon, if they have one of those, the Promo Gallantmon is yellow, Medieval's green. If they decide to go with like any of the like Megidramon, or if they keep like a level 4 on board and something like a Growlmon X Antibody that's purple, suddenly if they have also like X Antibody Cool Boys in the deck, that's white. So you can actually go for mill for game. On top of this, they can actually bully a little bit, thanks to some of the level 5s by just like slotting in some of those Restrigimon Superior Mode from BT21. Seems like you can actually bully them sometimes. I mean, if that doesn't work, like you can always just like set up your numbers, like your Tamers in the early game, and then just like burst win one turn. So moving on from Purple Hybrid, Sakuyamon, I played with this deck and tested it out a little bit this week, and I've seen some interesting things floating around out there. I think some of the folks in chat also pointed it out earlier. Sakuyamon can pretty relatively easily continue to make ruins. I did it this week, and I was like, oh yeah, I can just like ruin, no problem. The issue comes when you need to win the game, though. You're just like, all right, ruin. I'm almost out of deck. Now what? Maybe I can like scramble back another ruin. But that time your opponent is not going to die. So you've got to somehow convert the control into victory. And I think that's where I've been having the biggest trouble. If you guys have any ideas, let me know in the comments. I'm definitely willing to learn there. Because I've seen some really interesting ideas floated around. I think one of them I saw was adding in the level 7 Shakamon as a way, as like a ghetto, Chaos Valdermon do ghetto, I think is what they say. Where she's like a 1 cost evolve instead of 0 if you use a scramble. She can debuff pretty much everything on the board with Sec minus, but because she reverses, so she like pole shifts all of your Digimon's Sec minuses into Sec plus, she's checking for 2, and then your opponent has like 1 turn of like blanket Sec minus, which is cool. Not bad. No protection, doesn't shut off those pesky on play effects, doesn't give back any memory, but if you're trying to OTK and you have 2 memory, you evolve into Sakuyamon X, and then you use Sakuyamon X to play down a scramble, and then you go into Shakamon for 1, and that's like game, basically. I've also seen people just like going and playing the promo Gallantmons, the red-yellow one, because you can go through your deck quite quickly, and you can build up trash also or equally as quickly. And by leveraging that, you can just get another free attack on board, and you've got some recovery in your back pocket as well. He's also a nice little bit of a defense that the deck doesn't really have, outside of the, of course, ruin modes, but like, if you're trying to like put up a blocker, he's useful. And because the Sakuyamon who puts out a blocker token got restricted, he's like your next best option. Yeah, no protection, but you can't really lose with Sec minus. I mean, yeah, there's that too, right? Like, you could also Aegis, I guess. Aegis feels a little stingy. Because his effect is only, they don't get on play effects, but in the memory, when the memory tips over, only your DS, your Deep Savers cards get protection, which feels a little stingy considering how gracious Valder Arms effects are. I saw a list that had a bunch of different plugins, the blue jamming plugin plus Sec plus the red Sec plus plugin as well. Yeah, I tried the red plugin. It was just hard getting them matched up, right? Because if you find that plugin on a EX1 Renamon or a yellow memory boost, it just gets bottom decked immediately. That kind of sucks. See, being able to grab Shakamon in most cases does seem nice. Of course, you won't be able to grab it off Renamon, but not scrambles. Memory boosts and trainings are on the table. Seeing people tech a Genai house to buff your Sakuya X to pop with your own Gallant. Oh, that's clever. Because Sakuya X is what, 12? So you give her the buff to like, or 11 to 12, right? The Sakuya is 11. Sakuya X is 12. I'm not tripping, right? Yeah. So give her over 13 and then just kill her off. That's pretty clever. Same issue with green plugin. I mean, the green plugin does hurt. I'm not going to lie. Like, them being able to only rock 1 green plugin is definitely what makes the deck slower. You can try to make up with that with yellow scrambles, though. I think that helps. So that's Sakuyamon. If they can find a good idea that sticks to convert that defense into offense, I think they'll be right back on where they were. But we'll see. And I think that's about it. Yeah. So my final thoughts here. The one thing I like to test more are the really defensive decks. I talked about a lot of decks I think that were quite offensive here, but there are some defensive decks that I think could be really problematic for both Omnimon and Gallantmon. Again, I haven't tested these, but just from what I've heard or just like theory crafting, Galacticmon seems really interesting. I think that Galacticmon gives Gallantmon quite a bit of a problem, or it can anyway, and the second one being Abaddamon. Abaddamon having that stupid or that pesky wind moving effect and being not on the field when they do all their like shenanigans, and the fact that he can redirect thanks to the his effect and the what do you call them, starter deck Black Tie Tamers, making him bigger than Omnimon and maybe Gallantmon. Less likely with Gallantmon, but definitely so with Omnimon. I think is really strong. I'd love to do some more testing with them, and because Alter S's effect is all not affected by all effects. Gallantmon can be affected by options, which does make like some nasty security bombs really destructive for him. But yeah, your actual Digimon effects are not going to be that useful. What else? I think there's also plenty of other decks I didn't talk about here that would be interesting. If anyone else had any ideas or questions, definitely put them in the comments. I'm happy to read and learn a little bit more. If you've been doing your own testing, of course. And yeah, it's only been a week, so it's still really early. If you feel like my list wasn't uplifting enough or I didn't talk about enough decks, then yeah, give us some time. We'll probably figure something out. And keep in mind that EX10 is also like on the horizon within a couple of weeks, what, 2-3 weeks now? So I think that could also change things up. Vademon cooks Abatamon hard. Let's go Vademon. That's my new homie. That new DM Vademon is like my brother. Abatamon with Justimon Ace is so fun. I've heard about Abatamon with the DM stuff, like with the Vademon that we just talked about. I'll never stop talking about Vademon. Is basically what I'm trying to say. But I've heard that Justimon with Vademon is actually pretty cool too. You will always be bigger than Omni, even with Nokia. You can just block and kill it. That's basically what I'm trying to go for. Just pray they don't have the Blitzgreymon in Inheritance, and we're all good. Gallantmon strips all your protections, removes Galactic, even if you clear board satellites to very bad. Really? I've heard very different things. One of my friends who plays in California, who's like, he's only played Gallantmon the entire game. He's only played a Gallantmon deck in some form. He hates that matchup. I'll have to have a talk with him. Maybe he's got some insight that I don't know about. Interesting how Lucemon 7th Grade Demon Lords does with new stuff. I'm so excited for Lucemon. I might just play Lucemon regardless of how good it is in the next set. Although I've never really been like a sweat, so me not playing the best deck in the game is not a surprise, I think, to anybody. What about Hunters? So good with the new support. I'm interested to see how they can utilize some of the new cards. I think Piercing is really nice. I don't know so much about the Quartzmon. That'll be interesting to see how they like deck build with having to put in some of the what's the level 5's name? Astamon. That's it. Thank you. Astamon is the other Hunter's card that they can use to get into Quartzmon. I haven't really done any like theory crafting or looked at like how the builds will work for the deck with the new like bad guy cards from Sinister Order, but I'm interested to see how it works out. I really like Hunters. I actually still have it built up. Yeah, I never took Hunters apart. I still have the deck. Like there's like the decks that I like, basically all the protagonist decks, I pretty much never take apart. So I've got one for Zafagamon. I've always got a cross chart on me somewhere. Always got a Dukemon deck. Yeah, not a fake fan. He's real. He's a real one. So this is what the kids are doing nowadays, right? Like this is what you guys are into. This is it.